Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. When my wife passed away unexpectedly 2 years ago at the young age of 35, it felt like my whole world collapsed around me. We had been married for over a decade and had planned to grow old together and start a family. But fate had other plans. The only silver lining was that we had the foresight to take out a sizable life insurance policy on her. It provided me with some financial stability during the darkest period of my life. The policy amount was $500,000, which went a long way in paying off debts and taking care of immediate expenses. However, this blessing quickly turned into a curse when my sister-in-law Lisa caught wind of the payout. She had always been jealous of our comfortable lifestyle, even though she and her husband earned a decent living themselves. But nothing ever seemed enough for Lisa. She constantly wanted more money, more luxuries, more attention. Ever since I received the life insurance check, Lisa began hounding me to share it with her. In her twisted mind, she thought she was entitled to some of the money since we were family. No amount of logical reasoning worked on her. I repeatedly told her it was my wife's policy, meant to support me after her passing. But Lisa refused to back down, getting more belligerent and demanding by the day. The harassment went on for months through angry texts, emails, and phone calls. When I blocked her number, she would just use other people's phones to contact me. She even tried to guilt-trip me by saying my wife would have wanted me to help out her poor sister. It was a ridiculous argument, considering they didn't even get along when my wife was alive. Lisa's persistence wore me down over time. I tried to avoid her as much as possible, but she always found ways to ambush me, whether showing up at my house unannounced or cornering me when I was out running errands. Her insane obsession with money she didn't work for made me realize just how toxic she truly was. I feared things would get worse if I didn't take a stand. So I gathered up the courage to confront Lisa face to face one last time. I met her at a coffee shop, thinking a public setting might make her more rational. Boy, was I wrong. The second I reiterated that I wouldn't be giving her a single cent, she lost it. Lisa pounded her fists on the table and started yelling profanities at me. She caused such a scene that we got kicked out of the cafe. I quickly walked to my car, with Lisa still cussing me out as she followed close behind. As I fumbled to unlock my car door, I felt a sharp stabbing pain in my back. Lisa had pulled out a switchblade from her jacket pocket and plunged it into me. I screamed out in agony and twisted around to face her. The pure evil look on her face sent chills down my spine. She raised the blade again, ready to strike, but I reacted fast and knocked it from her hand. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, I shoved Lisa hard against my car and pinned her there while I called cops. She spit vulgarities at me until the cops arrived and arrested her. As the ambulance rushed me to the ER, I realized just how unhinged my sister-in-law was. She was willing to kill me over money that she had no right to. At the hospital, doctors treated my stab wound and informed the police about the severity of the attack. Due to my detailed statement and the evidence on my car and clothes, Lisa was charged with attempted murder among other crimes. The case against her was a slam dunk thanks to the rock-solid evidence. The prosecutor even commended me for having the foresight to confront Lisa in a public space, as it supported my self-defense claim when she became violent. In the end, Lisa got sentenced to 15 years in prison. It wasn't full justice for trying to take my life, but it prevented her from harming me or anyone else for a good long while. She also would be bankrupt from all the lawyer fees and fines imposed on her. As for me, I felt an enormous sense of relief once Lisa was behind bars. I could finally close this toxic chapter of my life and focus on grieving and healing properly. The life insurance money was untouched, safely tucked away for my future. Perhaps one day I would find love again and finally start the family my late wife and I had dreamed of. But for now, it was time to rebuild my life one day at a time, without Lisa's venomous presence lurking in the shadows. In a bittersweet way, this painful ordeal brought me closer to my deceased wife. Lisa only cared about money, but my wife cared about people. She would have been appalled at her sister's greed and violence. But she also would have told me how proud she was of my strength and resilience. Whenever I visited her resting place, I felt her comforting presence guiding me towards better days ahead. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I met this girl, 22 at the time, while I, 30M at the time, was working in a national park, and she was a housekeeper on a work visa. We instantly hit it off, and within a month we were in a relationship. We even had a solid long-distance arrangement, where we would visit each other on recreational visas in our respective off-seasons. I'd spend a few months in Romania or meet her at some vacation destination. Then she'd spend a few months in the States. This went on for about 2 years, and eventually the conversation came up with her family about possibly moving her to the States permanently. Romania never really recovered from the Ceausescu regime, and political economic corruption makes life pretty unpleasant for a lot of people. Her marrying and moving to the US meant that her mom wouldn't have to worry about her daughter having a good life. I arranged for sponsorship and proposed to her. It seemed like my dreams were coming true. Then about a month after she's all settled in, I get a message from her best friend back home. What followed were a year's worth of screenshots wherein she bragged about conning me into paying for her residency while she cheated on me with 8 different men. In her friend's words, "You are a good man and you don't deserve this." So, over the following 2 weeks, I reported her to ICE and Homeland Security for a conversation her brother and I had over a bottle at one point. He bragged about how he had done time in prison for smuggling weapons to Turkish terrorists, and how she had been his lookout on several occasions. As you might imagine, in the War on Terror days, this was not taken lightly. She was immediately arrested and deported, and put on a permanent no-entry terror watch list. Want to take advantage of me and cheat? Have fun never being able to come back to the States. The next one is a petty revenge story. A little over 30 years ago, the wife and I were able to buy our first new car. She really wanted a Jeep Wrangler, so we splurged for a top-of-the-line Laredo. It was beautiful, black and chrome, and fun to drive. In the summer, I would take off the hardtop so we could enjoy the wind as we drove. Unfortunately, it was mechanically a POS. It was forever in the shop getting fixed for one thing or another. It was produced in the year or so after AMC was acquired by Chrysler. So of course, one summer day, we had to drop it off at a garage. We went back home to wait to hear back when it was ready. Also, of course, being still rather new in our marriage, we were fighting about something stupid. I have no recollection of what it was about. All I know is that she didn't want to talk to me. She was out in the porch watching TV when I got the call from the garage saying the Jeep was ready. I popped my head into the room and said, "Time to pick up the Jeep." "No!" she snarled back and continued to watch the news. I rolled my eyes and went somewhere else in the house. A couple of hours later, she finds me and says, "The garage is about to close, we have to go now." "Finally," I said, and we went to go pick it up. She dropped me off so I could drive it the 20 minutes or so home. About halfway home, while on the freeway, the thunderstorm hit. As usually happens, the first wave of rain was the heaviest, and boy did it come down. I was soaked instantly, and the Jeep was almost like in a cartoon filling up with water. There was nowhere to hide. I just had to suck it up and continue driving it home. I think it took 5 or 6 days for it to fully dry out. About a week later, she reveals that she wasn't just watching TV, she was tracking the approaching storm and waited until just before it arrived to make me drive home without the top. Her timing was perfect. I'm still married to this evil genius. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I work for a freight delivery company driving a semi-truck and usually handle 10-15 deliveries a day. Our policy dictates that when delivering to a residence, a picture must be taken with the work phone as additional proof of delivery. This policy has evolved, so now if the delivery receipt, DR, indicates residential, a picture must be taken, regardless of whether it's destined for a business or a house. There are many small details on a DR that can be overlooked, making this aspect crucial. Last week I had a delivery for Laura Lopez, name changed. It was destined for a construction company where Laura is an employee. The DR did not specify it as residential. I made the delivery and left without taking a picture. The next morning, my supervisor, who often clashes with me and has been trying to get rid of me, informed me, "I have a write-up for you." Confused, I asked her why. "For the Laura Lopez delivery yesterday, it was residential," she stated. I explained to her that it was a business and the DR did not label it as residential. Unconvinced, she insisted on the write-up. I suggested we discuss it with my manager, so we did. Fortunately, he sided with me, as she lacked grounds for her claim. This greatly infuriated her. I made it clear that this issue should not arise again. That day, I initiated my plan. I began taking pictures with the work phone at every stop. Upon hitting depart on the work phone, a pop-up would appear on her computer with the picture, which she had to acknowledge before proceeding. I crashed her computer 3 times that day, even taking 20 pictures at one stop. She called me, demanding that I stop taking pictures. Politely, I informed her that I was merely covering my responsibilities and complying with policy. "I'm giving you an order," she exclaimed. I chuckled and hung up. Predictably, she wrote me up for it. Without arguing, I insisted we escalate the matter to my manager. Upon hearing the story, he glanced at her, tore up the write-up, and questioned, "Are you seriously reprimanding him for exceeding expectations?" She was speechless. Nonetheless, I continued taking pictures at every stop out of pettiness. The next one is an entitled people story. I have a bit of an issue with an ex-friend. I have taken out an APVO. We have the hearing in March. I'm just wanting to share this vent a little and get others' opinions on the matter. I've never had to do something like this before, and IDK where I stand. All names have been changed. I have applied for an APVO against an ex-friend and had the court date today. Ashley, not real name, chose to seek an adjournment and stated to the judge that she's wanting an APVO on me. The judge rolled her eyes and did suggest mediation. However, I don't feel comfortable with that as I know it won't help the situation. Ashley stated, "I don't want her in my life and I want an AVO on her." The judge ignored this. Background information. Ashley's cat went missing around the 20th of September, 2023. I had gone out looking for her cat with her numerous times between the 27th of September 2023. And while being disabled, I still trekked through paddocks and put off my own stuff to try and find her cat. But apparently I still was never doing enough to please her. Ashley has BPD and has a history of violent behavior, court documented as well. During the process of searching for her cat, Ashley told me that her cat had a tile tracking tag. However, the tile tracker only picks up to a 400M range. I spoke with my fiancé, Sam, on the 26th of September 2023, and he stated he was happy to look for his drone to hopefully help find Ashley's cat. I told Ashley about this on the same day. The morning of the 27th of September 2023, Ashley called me around 9 a.m. and said she still hadn't found her cat and asked about the drone again. I remember saying to her, "Sam put the drone on charge last night, so when he can, we will take it out and help you look for cat. I'm not comfortable taking his drone without him being there, as it's not my device." Ashley screamed at me and said, "How f***ing long does it take to charge a f***ing drone? I'm sick of no one wanting to help me find my cat. My family refuses to help. I'm at the point that I'm going to take Molly, her sister's dog, out into a paddock somewhere and leave her there so sister can feel what I'm feeling." Ashley started crying and expressing how upset she was. Ashley kept saying, "You're not doing anything to help OP. If you were actually a decent friend or decent human, you would at least have King help me. When your cat goes missing, I won't help you find her. When your cat goes missing, I hope you King feel the pain I'm feeling right now. Only when your cat goes missing will you even care. I have a cat named Potato, pug-faced Persian, who is sensitive to the sound of someone crying. Potato heard Ashley crying, I had her on loudspeaker, and jumped up on the desk I was sitting at and let out a soft meow. Ashley heard this and screamed, "Shut the FK up, you stupid inbred idiot," and hung up. I messaged Ashley expressing my distaste for her behavior, but still offering my help. Ashley acts on emotions when she is in a BPD episode, and I have had experience with working with people with BPD. I was a nurse and disability support worker for 12 years, so I know to not become argumentative, to try and minimize verbal attacks. It was also Sam and my anniversary that day, and we had dinner plans. However, Ashley demanded we cancel our dinner and go hunting all night for her cat. I stated no, Ashley didn't like this, and blew up on my about consistently being a flake and fake friend. Previously posted about an incident with her demanding I go to a pub to babysit her 16-year-old sister and her friends. On the 28th of September, 2023, Ashley threatened to end herself and took a video of her in Bunnings, telling me to choose what rope she was to use as it was my choice, and it was my fault she was wanting to unalive herself. Due to the nature of the threat, I contacted her mother and let her know what was going on, including screenshots and voicemails, in hopes her mom could help her regulate again. I also went to the police station and gave the officer a USB with all the screenshots, voicemails, and threats. The police officer advised they would do a welfare check. Due to the stress Ashley was causing, I was having severe chest pain, full body shakes, and heart rate of 150 BPM and above. I have 2 disabilities, CRPS nerve condition and POTS autonomic nervous system issues, and the stress put me into a severe POTS episode and I took myself up to the emergency department for help, where I was there for hours and had to have ECGs, etc. On the 29th of September 2023, a mutual friend and I went to speak to Ashley's counselor, Bob, to let him know what was happening, in hopes he could provide Ashley with the support she was needing. Bob advised me not to engage with Ashley at all, and if I felt threatened, to seek further help from police or the courts. Ashley continued to contact me through TikTok as it was the only form of communication I forgot to block her on. Ashley told me that it was a good thing I was injured at work and could no longer work again. The injury at work caused me to have an 81% impairment of my dominant arm, as well as caused me to develop 2 lifelong chronic illnesses and 52% whole person impairment, and that everything happens for a reason. I told Ashley that I was not standing for her abusing, harassing, and threatening me and to never contact me again, and blocked her on TikTok as well. Due to the consistency of the harassment, contacting me and threatening me on 7 different methods of communication, as well as writing a nasty Facebook post about me and tagging me, and her continuing to try to contact me even though I told her not to contact me again, I proceeded with an APVO to protect myself, fiancé, and animals, as I am terrified that she will try to harm me or my animals or cause issues for my fiancé at his work. Ashley has also done drive-bys past my house, and I'm concerned she will attempt to harm one of my animals when I'm not home, just to cause hurt. Because of this, I have had to keep my animals inside while I'm in town, as I can't trust they will be safe in their own yard. I am scared that she will attempt to physically assault me, and due to the harassment, threats, and fears for my health and safety as well as my animals' safety, I am considering relocating elsewhere so she doesn't know my address. Ashley has demanded on numerous occasions for me to cancel plans and even cancel medical appointments just to go somewhere with her or do something I physically can't do. When I would stand my ground and say no, she'd start with the crocodile tears and begin the verbal abuse. The next one is an entitled parent story. This happened a few years ago when my nephews were really young, and since I'm still having issues with this parent, I remembered this gem and thought I'd share. I, 25F, share a father with my brother, 30M, but we have different mothers. Our dad is an acquired taste to say the least, and he's relatively narcissistic. Our grandfather and his wife, not my grandmother, she had died years prior, had decided to fly in to visit, and this was the first time my brother had met him, so it was a pretty big occasion. My mom, who is pretty close with my grandfather, was the one to plan a lot of the event, and the 3 of them had decided my nephews would be a hassle for their parents to wrangle at this restaurant, and would likely act out when they got tired, as we had planned a dinner, and they were still on a really early bedtime schedule, being toddlers. This was also not a family-friendly restaurant, as there is nowhere for kids to play. This was also going to be a large gathering with my boyfriend meeting my grandfather as well, and my younger sister, and stepdad joining us, making it 9 people without the kids. So we told my brother that his kids weren't invited, as they were hyper, and so the 2 of them could enjoy themselves without having to chase their kids around. Him and his wife agreed happily, and we proceeded with planning. Well, my dad found out and threw a fit. He insisted that his grandchildren be there, as they had the right to meet their great-grandfather too, which, while true, we had never planned for them to never see him. We planned for them to meet our grandfather at another point during the trip. He pitched a fit at my mom and demanded that they go or he wouldn't. My dad isn't and has never been married to either of our mothers, so it's not like he is berating an ex or current wife here. We obliged begrudgingly and decided we'd let him regret his choice. Fast forward to the day of, and as predicted, the boys were behaved for an hour max and then they got bored. My grandfather's wife was very snotty about it and basically complained the whole time, and everyone sort of just looked at Dad every time she made a comment like, "Oh, these kids are so hyper, they should have stayed home with a sitter." My nephews are genuine sweethearts, they just have ADHD and were tired. My dad did have to get up and wrangle them occasionally, but it was mostly my brother chasing them around. He never apologized for the inconvenience it caused and never acknowledged he was wrong, but I could tell he felt sheepish about it. That's kind of a trend with him, though. The next one is an entitled parent story. I work for an airline and we get free flight privileges to extend to our parents, including step-parents and in-laws. But I don't particularly like my stepmother or know her very well. For context, my mother died a few years ago, and my dad remarried recently. Thus, I don't want to extend the privilege to her. However, my father is upset. For context, I know he is upset because we get one friend to add, and my dad mentioned adding her as the friend, to which I told him I decide who that one friend is, and that I might give it to someone else. He got upset because he says it costs him money because he covers her costs, and that granting the friend pass should be automatic because it helps him. For context, she doesn't make much money, and my dad provides for her mostly, especially for vacations. He went on to say that because he paid for my college tuition, room and board, provided me with a car, and gave me $20K in my savings account that I should return the favor by giving her the flight pass because it helps him save money. He feels that it's unfair if he gets it free and she has to pay. He went on to say that he would refuse free flights if I don't grant it to her. I responded by saying I don't support the marriage and don't like her, to which he said that I don't have the authority to dictate the marriage. I responded back by saying that he doesn't get to decide who I grant the flight privilege to. I told him that with this kind of behavior, I might not even grant him the pass, since entitled behavior might get me in trouble. He got more upset and said I was being disrespectful towards him because I shouldn't use his behavior towards me as an indication of him at the airport. He went on to say that he will refuse the privilege because of my disrespect. He went on to proclaim that not granting the flight pass to her is essentially declaring to the whole world that I don't like her. I told him that I don't trust her enough to take responsibility for her. He said that he will be responsible for her, but that's not how it works, as the employee, me, takes responsibility. I said that it's his right to marry her, but it's also his responsibility. I think he is being entitled. I especially don't like the fact that he is imposing her as a priority against my will. He has made threats of withholding my last semester's tuition and taking the car back. Thus, I'm really uncomfortable. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.